very good evening to respected Principal Sir, Vice Principal Sir, our guest speaker for the day, revered faculty members, and all our dear participants. I, Sahil Jakhar, Vice President of Rasayaniki, is delighted to welcome you all on behalf of Rasayaniki, the Chemistry Society of Ramjas College, to an enlightening international webinar on analysis of failure of garter springs in CANDU nuclear reactors. When you possess light within you, you glow on the outside and illuminate your surroundings too. Therefore, let us kindle the flame of wisdom within us through the auspicious lamp lighting ceremony. I request respected Principal Sir, Vice Principal Sir, our guest speaker, and my mentors to kindly allow me to begin this ceremony.
Yes, Sahil, you can begin with.
There is something in the human spirit that will always survive and prevail. There is tiny and brilliant light burning in the heart of man that will not go out no matter how dark the world becomes. So, what is needed is to look within and ignite that flame of wisdom and positivity. On this note, let us give this program a fresh start. Now, over to you, Anushka.
Thank you, Sahil. My heartiest greetings to all of you. I, Anushka Man, welcome you all to the webinar. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. Our respected Principal Sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Khanna, has always been a guiding light for all of us and has inspired us to reach new heights in our lives. Due to some prior commitments, Sir is unable to join us today, but he continues to send us his blessings to all of us. I also extend my warm welcome to the revered Vice Principal Sir and IQAC Coordinator, Professor Hemant Kumar Rajor, who has always motivated us and guided us at every step of our journey. Sir, I welcome you to today's event and I request you to kindly share some positive words with all of us.
Thank you, Anushka. Good evening, our distinguished speaker, Mr. Asim Kirtiman Chauhan, Dr. Shuruchi, teacher in charge, Dr. Suchi Verma, convener, Chemistry Society, office bearers, faculty members, students, and dear participants. I congratulate Department of Chemistry to organize a series of national and international webinars by Rashayaniki, the Chemistry Society of Ramjas College. And I also welcome you all to this international webinar hosted today by Chemical Society Rashayaniki under the aegis of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Ramjas College, University of Delhi. Our esteemed speaker, Mr. Asim Kirtiman Chauhan, Office Manager, Purchase at Swaglock, Grand Prairie, Saskatoon, Canada, will be delivering a talk on analysis of failure of garter springs in Kandu nuclear reactor. This is one of the case study. So it is very important being a chemist to understand uh, about this feature also. I am sure that we all will be benefited by this talk. Once again, I welcome and thank you for your active participation. Thank you very much to all of you. Anushka, it is over to you.
Thank you, sir, for your words of positivity. Now, I feel privileged to introduce our revered teacher in charge, Department of Chemistry, Dr. Suruchi ma'am, who has always inspired us to step out of our comfort zones and hone ourselves. Ma'am, I request you to kindly share some words of wisdom with all of us.
Respected Vice Principal Professor Hemant Rajor, today's eminent speaker Mr. Asim Kirtiman, my dear colleagues and students, a very good evening to all of you. It's a new season where words can't describe the fragrance of the very breath of springs. A perfect opportunity to do something new, bold, and beautiful. With these lines, I welcome all of you to the international webinar organized by Chemistry Society Rasayaniki under the aegis of IQAC. I express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Asim Kirtiman Chauhan for making his time available to join us today for delivering a lecture. It's an honor to have such a speaker for accepting the invitation and deliver a talk. Thank you so much, Mr. Asim Kirtiman. My best wishes to the members of Rasayaniki for the success of today's event. You all have worked hard to make this webinar a success. I am sure that all the participants will feel enriched with knowledge after today's talk. I welcome you all once again and hope that all of you have a great time ahead. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anushka.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. Now, it's time to begin with the much awaited lecture. Before we begin today's talk, I would request all the participants to kindly keep their mics muted during the course of the webinar. Any questions related to the talk can be posted in the chat box, which would be addressed at the end of it. Now, I would like to invite Manisha Sharma, Digital Team Volunteer Rasayaniki, to kindly introduce the eminent speaker for the day, Mr. Asim Kirtiman Chauhan.
Thank you so much, Anushka. I'm Manisha Sharma, a third year student. Welcome you all again to this webinar. Finally, the much awaited moment is about to begin. Now I feel elated to introduce our guest speaker of the day. Mr. Asim Kirtiman Chauhan is an office manager purchaser at Swishlo Grande Prairie, Fort St. John, Winnipeg, Saskatoon. His area of interest is engineering and product marketing. He has been actively involved in the sales and marketing of products in firms based in Saskatoon. He is excellent in communication, a team player, and a dedicated engineer with solid buying oblique purchasing experience. He had done his master's degree from the University of Saskatchewan in mechanical engineering and a bachelor's degree in technology from Lingaya University. He has authored and co authored 9 publications in the field of technology, engineering, environment, biofuels, finance, and management. We hope to have a great session with you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Hi there, everybody. I would like to thank Dr. Suchi Verma and Ramdas College and University of Delhi for giving me an opportunity to speak today. Just gonna get my screen here. Okay, is everybody able to see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Uh, so the topic of today's presentation or today's talk is analysis of failure of Carter springs in a CANDU nuclear reactors. I would like to first start by introducing what exactly is a CANDU nuclear reactor. So the CANDU nuclear reactors, the name stands for Canada Deuterium Uranium Reactors. And they were the reactors which were built in 1950s and 1960s. And over a period of time, the designs have been modified a number of times. So at At present, we are on generation 4 of the CANDU nuclear reactors. And specifically talking about India, we have around 18 CANDU nuclear reactors. Two of them are the CANDU reactors, which were bought as is from Canada. And the other 16 reactors are based on the design modifications of the original CANDU reactor. And the topic of my study today focuses more on the garter springs. So that is the yellow color spring here in a CANDU nuclear reactor. So as you guys know, every nuclear reactor has fuel channels. In case of a CANDU nuclear reactor, the fuel channels are enclosed in a calandria tube. And the garter springs basically acts like spacers or space rings between the pressure tube, which holds the fuel cells, and the calandria tube, which is more of an exterior protection for these fuel channel assemblies. The garter springs are made of an alloy known as Inconel X750. Inconel X750 is a nickel superalloy, and in terms of concentration, it has around a 70% concentration of nickel, followed by chromium and iron. So our entire project was basically focused on Inconel X750. The current problem that happens in a nuclear reactor, especially in a CANDU nuclear reactor, is that over a period of time, these garter springs tend to fail. And once they fail, there is no so once these springs fails, it is not able to retain pressure. And as a result, we've had some accidents related to the failure of garter springs. So that was the main topic of research given to my team, to see what is the main cause of the failure of the garter springs, and what can be done in order to prevent it for the future. Okay. So if you notice a series of chemical reactions over here, so in a CANDU reactor, just because of a high thermal and epithermal neutron flux, because of which the nickel superalloys undergoes two-stage transportation from nickel 58 to nickel 59, and they degrade. So in the first reaction, you'll see the nickel 58 degrades down to nickel 59. Once nickel 59 is created, it undergoes various reactions, and these reactions are extremely isothermic. Are extremely exothermic. As a result, the temperature near the garter spring area increases a lot. Not only they are exothermic, they also release helium ions. And these helium ions are one of the main causes of failure of the garter springs. So the objectives of our research was to optimize the method of helium implantation and analysis of bubbles formation in pure nickel and Inconel X750. The reason why we are doing helium implantation is we wanted to simulate the conditions of a nuclear reactor. So what we guys did, we guys took some Inconel X750 samples, and we bombarded it with helium, or we implanted it with helium ions in order to simulate the conditions of a nuclear reactor. Once the implantation was done, our second objective was to establish a relationship between temperature and the formation of voids in pure nickel and Inconel X750. And the last objective was to study the influence of grain boundary structure on the concentration of voids in pure nickel and Inconel X750. In order to carry out the implantation process, we used a tandem accelerator at the University of Montreal. The implantations that we did, we used a 1.7 megavolt tandem accelerator, and the implantations were carried out on them. The implantations were carried out on the sample for around 20 minutes on each of the sample. The reason that we only did a short time frame was when we are dealing with the samples after they've been implanted with helium, they are radioactive. So our main aim was to implant them, but at the same time keep the radioactive levels low so that they can be easily managed and experimented with. So if you see in these test tubes over here, these are the 4 samples that we implanted. Once these samples were implanted, they were vacuum sealed. Once they were vacuum sealed, then we annealed these samples at different temperatures. Our purpose of annealing these samples at different temperatures was to understand the degradation of the sample over a certain temperature range. Once these samples were annealed, we guys did some EBST scans and SEM scans. So EBST stands for electron backscattering diffraction. The purpose of EBST scans were to analyze the crystalline structure of the nickel superalloy. So if you see in the slide over here, we have a number of crystals with different colors. So you'll see every crystal or every crystalline structure is with a different color, and you can see a grain boundary between them. The main reason of having them with different colors and different grain boundaries was to understand the angle at which one crystalline structure differs from the other crystalline structure. And we guys did analysis at various grain boundaries. So everywhere where you see a white box is the area of focus where we guys analyze failure, and we analyze the scan before implantation and after implantation of helium. In one of these structures over here, so this is a scan of a huge area of sample, and now we are focusing on a smaller area of the sample. We guys marked the sample. The reason of marking the sample was once we are scanning the sample before the implantation process, we wanted to analyze the same area after the implantation process. And the only way to do it was to mark the sample. And even in these scans, if you see, all these lines over here, which are red and green in color, are basically different angles of the grain boundaries. All the lines which are red in color are having a misorientation angle of 40 degrees or less, and all the lines which are green in color have a misorientation angle of 20 degrees or less. This is a further magnified image of one of the SEM scans that was done at a grain boundary. So if you see one of these structures over here, we guys did a deeper analysis on that structure just to focus on the grain boundaries. So these are the scans of an implanted X750 sample. And then after that, so these are the scans of an implanted X750 sample without any heating process in them. Once they were heated, you can see we have some voids or bubbles along the grain boundaries. Get into the next image here. So these are again scans of a non-implanted sample. You can see we can see clear lines between the various grains. Even in this one, we can see clear lines. But the moment we go into the implanted samples, which were annealed to a certain temperature, you can see void formation along these grain boundaries, which was not present in the samples which were not implanted. These are the structures, or these are the bubble formations which causes the actual Garter springs to fail in a nuclear reactor. In this particular sample, this was heated up to a temperature of 700 degrees Celsius, and the time for which we heated them was a time period of 30 minutes. Once we were able to analyze that the voids are formed towards the grain boundaries, our next phase was to identify what are the exact grain boundaries, or what is the structure of the alloy which are causing these helium voids to be concentrated more at one location as compared to the other location. So for example, if you see in this particular sample, majority of the helium voids are in this particular misorientation grain boundary, the grain boundary over here, and the grain boundaries over here. But if you see the grain boundary over here and this particular grain boundary, you can see next to no next to no formation of voids. The same can be observed in this particular sample. You have helium voids on this particular grain boundary, and if you see on this grain boundary down here, you can see a lot of voids as compared to this particular grain boundary where you cannot see any of the voids. So our next phase was to understand why is this happening, and is there a particular grain boundary, or is there a particular angle of the grain boundary where we have more helium void formations. In order to achieve that, we guys came and compared the structure back with our EBST scans. So if you see this particular area over here, number 7, it's number 7 in the box. This particular structure has 3 different angles of grain boundaries. So the grain boundary going from orange to a bluer shade is a different angle, and the one going from an orange to a pink shade is a different angle. We guys were able to determine the exact angle of a grain boundary using the SEM scans. And then we were able to compare it with the structures over here, going back to the EBST scan as to what color is this and what color is this, and we were able to identify the exact angle of the grain boundary. Once we had that information, we guys performed some statistical analysis and we graphed all our data. One of our main observations were that the misorientation angle had a direct impact, or it was directly relationed to the concentration of voids per micron. The higher the grain boundary, the higher was the concentration of voids on that particular grain boundary or on that particular structure. So in this graph that you see concentration of voids versus misorientation, the higher is the misorientation angle. And when I'm talking about misorientation angle, I'm talking about the grain boundary angle. So the higher is the misorientation between the two grains in the alloy, the higher is the concentration of voids. So this was one of the main findings and the main analysis that we had from our research, that wherever there is a major structure difference or a major misorientation in the sample, the higher would be the concentration of the helium voids. The concentration of helium voids is the primary concern and is the primary reason why these Gatter springs fail in a nuclear reactor. So the ability to find the relationship between the misorientation angle and the formation of voids gave the material science team a head start, and they knew exactly what angles have to be avoided during the formation of the alloy. So once concluding this talk, so one of the conclusions was the helium voids was seen in the post-irradiated samples of nickel and Inconel X750. And from the SEM scan, it was clearly seen that the voids are usually accumulated near the grain boundaries as compared to the bulk of the region. So once our work was done, we guys submitted our findings. The team back at the shops, their main job was to now change the structure of the alloy in order to avoid as many misorientation angles as possible. acknowledgement, I would like to thank my professors, Professor Josie Spooner, Professor Barbara, and Professor Michael Bradley at the UFS, who helped me perform this research in Department of Physics and Department of Mechanical Engineering. Then Dr. Martin from Department of Physics at University of Montreal, Bruce Power, Ontario, and the Center of Nuclear Innovation in Saskatoon, who helped us fund the project and who helped us doing the implantation on these samples. Okay, I'll be open to any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening session. I'm sure we all are going to take away a lot with us regarding this wonderful technology. Now we'll address the queries of our participants who have been patiently and eagerly listening to the lecture. I would request Ankita Singh, student representative Rasayaniki, to kindly take up the questions of our lovely participants.
Okay, so now we have some questions in the chat box. Taking up the very first question, we have from Rohan. The question says, can we generate infinite energy by successive fission and fusion reactions? So could you please address this question?
Okay, so coming back to your question, Rohan, yes, I'll say it is possible, but we still need to do a lot of research in that. This was addressed in one of our research topics as well that we guys are working on in a different lab over here. Is after a few reactions, it's becoming extremely uncontrollable for us. So as you know, every step in a fusion reaction is highly exothermic. So when you talk about infinite energy, in theory, yes, it is possible. But when we talk about the practicality of it, we still don't have the technology to capture that heat or even to control that reaction if in case it is going out of control. As you know, it's a chain reaction. We still don't have the technology if you're going in infinite way to stop it or to control it where we guys want to. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the very next question. It says, what is your scientific opinion about use of portable nuclear fission reactors, battery microreactors?
So in terms of portable nuclear reactors, that's another thing our lab is working on, and that's a nuclear reactor based on thorium. And our lab is partnering with with IIT Delhi on that. As you know, India has India has an abundance of thorium. So what we guys are working on is a thorium-based nuclear reactor, which is going to be extremely small. You can actually keep it in your garage, and you can power your entire house with it. The reason why we are going slow, or as you're talking about battery microreactors and using thorium, is because if in case there's an accident with thorium, it is not going to be as harmful as compared to using uranium, and it's going to be less explosive. So yes, portable nuclear reactors are definitely a thing of the future, and a lot of research is definitely going on them. Can take the next question.
Okay, sir. So we have the very next question from Khushi Agrawal. The question is, with an increasing consumption of electricity, do you think that the advanced small modular reactors should replace the large nuclear plants?
So I'm on the fence on this one, in my personal opinion. The small modular nuclear reactors, definitely for a population like India or for a more densely populated country, that's something you have to consider a lot about safety, because you cannot make multiple nuclear reactors. In terms of a large nuclear reactor, what we guys have seen when it comes down to the efficiency of the nuclear reactor is slightly better as compared to the smaller reactors, unless you change your fuel. And as I discussed in one of the previous questions, if you're okay going from uranium to a more stable or a more safer fuel like thorium, then yes, a smaller reactors would definitely be better and in replacing the larger scale nuclear reactors. And I can take the next one.
Okay, sir. So the next question is, how did you begin and shape your research career in this field that you are working in? And do you have any suggestions or tips for us as being we are the undergraduate students?
So my research career, actually, I'll say, started at Lingias University. I, along with Dr. Suchi Verma, we guys worked on a project on biofuels. And it was after that I really wanted to get more into an alternate fuel of into alternate fuels. That's when I started looking at universities which are doing more research into an alternate technology, and I came across University of Saskatchewan, who were having a program where they were doing extensive research in nuclear field. So that's how my research career went from biofuels into nuclear and to what I'm doing right now. In terms of suggestions for undergraduate students, I'll suggest try and participate in as many lab activities or as many projects that you guys can do right now. Definitely collaborate with your professors and see what kind of funding is available at the University of Delhi, and what kind of projects that they are working on, so that you can help them. And a project would not always mean that you are doing anything hands-on and you're in the lab. Even helping them with case studies, or even helping them gathering data for that particular research project, would definitely help the undergrad students, and it can be added onto their CV to help them to go to the next step. I can take the next one.
Okay, sir. So the next question is from Izazul, wherein he wants to know that the nuclear waste formed during the reaction is something that cannot be decomposed easily. So what could be the waste so as to minimize this waste or to decompose it?
Yeah, that is one of the problems of every nuclear reactor, that the waste formation does not decompose properly. I know there is a lot of research going on that field. It's not my area of expertise. I would not be able to comment on that, but I know over here you guys have strict environment policies that any nuclear waste, we have policies how it's supposed to be decomposed, where it is supposed to be decomposed, and by when would that area be considered safe in order for human habitation. So we guys make sure that any of the waste disposal that we are doing, it's way away from any human habitation and even animal habitation in that case for now. I can take the next one.
Yes, sir. So the next question says, what are the advantages of CANDU nuclear reactors, and is it safer than other type of reactors that are currently in use?
So I'll say yes. The CANDU nuclear reactors are definitely safer than some of the other nuclear reactors in the market. One of the main reason is that how a CANDU reactor works, we do not require an enriched fuel for that. So not having an enriched fuel would help us if in case there is an accident in the nuclear reactor, your fuel is not that enriched, so you have less radioactivity concerns if there's a breach in the hull. In terms of some other advantages of a nuclear reactor is of a CANDU reactor is it is cost and time. It costs less money to make a CANDU reactor as compared to other nuclear reactors, and the time of construction is less as well. And as the name stands, it's a Canada deuterium uranium reactor. So we are using heavy water as a moderator, and it has a lower fuel consumption. So even down the line, the operating costs of a CANDU reactor is less as compared to a different nuclear reactor.
Okay, so I hope all the queries have been well addressed. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. Over to you, Anushka.
Thank you, Ankita. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and addressing the queries of the participants. It was truly a very informative session for all of us. Now, over to you, Sahil.
Thank you, Anushka. As we proceed towards the end of the program, I would like to request Dr. Suchi Verma, convener of Rasayaniki, to kindly highlight the takeaway points of the lecture and conclude the same.
Thank you, Sahil. Um, before I just conclude, I just want to request our senior professor, Professor Ramakant Goel, sir. So can you just help us in and guide us in this? And I want to invite you to be here and just conclude the session, sir.
Actually, I checked out in between.
Okay, sir.
So please you continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic as related to, this nuclear reactor and all that we are just not aware of. But in our chemistry, we just, learn and listen nuclear fission and nuclear fusion reaction, half-life period and all that. So basically, I'll just conclude it like that. This nuclear reactor is basically CANDU, in the chemistry of this CANDU process system is basically, it is the efficiency and safe operation of the CANDU reactor is highly dependent upon the selection and proper implementation of the chemistry control practices and the material which we are using. It is very interesting how this lecture begins. It begins with the history of the CANDU, how it is in 1950 and 1960 it is started, and with the nickel alloys, how it is converted into the helium, and how this helium is you have to control the reaction, and how this helium is problematic for us if it is uncontrolled. I think this is the point from we will get it. And the angles which we are just it's shown by Asim sir, through how it is this different angles creating the voids and bubbles and making the problem in this nuclear reactor, and it hazardous for us. And that in the end of this lecture, how we have to implement, and the next from the uranium and all that, we are just switching on to the very interesting portable thorium reactor. And it is, if it is possible, then it's a big problem of electricity which we we are facing in the rural areas. We can able to solve it. And yeah, it is a research area, very good research area that people are working on it. IT still have mentioned by the scene that people are working on it, and definitely it's a very good upcoming field also, because yeah, you all know that there are so many electricity plants are switching off through many reasons, environmental reasons and all that. So I think upcoming future is through this portable nuclear reactor. This is very interesting. And so how we have to work on the safety of it, and how we can use these this better nuclear reactors, safe nuclear reactors like thoriums and all that. So I think this is a very interesting field, and this is a very good research area. Thank you, Asim. It's a very wonderful talk, and you just highlight us how that's untouched field, because it's just thinking about the fission and fusion reactions. We just think about how much it is difficult to control it and all that. So yeah, there are more chemistry of ion exchange resins, and there are more chemistry of deuterium water which help us to control in all these reactions. So this is really a very interesting field, and thank you. And I think we'll come to the Anushka. Thank you, Asim. It's really a nice, field of research and upcoming field. Thank you. Over to you, Anushka.
I request Sahil to take on from here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Rudra Pratap, President of Rasayaniki, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all present here. I am Rudra Pratap. On this wonderful eve, I would like to present token of gratitude. On the behalf of Rasai Niki, I feel privileged to thank our chief guest of this function, Mr. Asim Kritiman Chauhan, for sparing his valuable time and gracing the occasion. The words of wisdom delivered by Sir are highly valuable and will definitely serve as great motivation. Thank you, Sir. I would like to extend my gratitude to the respected Principal Sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Khanna, and respected Vice Principal Sir, Professor Hemant Kumar Rajor, for allowing us to conduct this knowledgeable meet and also for spending their time with us today. Thank you, sir, for encouraging us to achieve many endeavors. I am grateful toward our teacher in charge, Dr. Sruchi ma'am, for all her guidance and inspiration. And I am also grateful toward our convener, Dr. Suchi Verma ma'am, to arrange these events and being so supportive toward us. Thank you, ma'am, for your assistance. I also extend my gratitude to the non-teaching staff, without whose support and help Rasayaniki would be incomplete. And now I am grateful to you all for attending the event. Without your continued support, we would never be able to go to an event like this. And I want to end my speech by saying thank you so much for your time and presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rudra. It was indeed a very fruitful session. I would now request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form, the link for which is being floated in the chat box. It is essential that you fill it up in order to receive the e-certificates. Since we are moving towards the end of the program, I request all the participants to kindly turn on their cameras for a group photograph. Thank you, everyone. So with this note, we hereby come to the end of the program. Thank you, everyone, for being such patient listeners. I hope you take with you plenty of knowledge from today's session. It was an honor to be present here with all of you. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Asim.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, each and every faculty member who joined us. And especially, I want to thank, a few faculties who joined us from the outside of our college. I think she's there. I think she left. Yeah. So I really want to thank to the, faculty members who just joined us from there. Thank you, Asim. It's a wonderful session. Thanks for your time and all that.
No worries, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim. Thank you, everyone. I think we are just end up with this session. Thank you all. Please fill the, feedback form.